Welcome to Lesson 11. Today we're going to get an overview of CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. The whole idea of CSS is that it is a way to describe the presentation of our content. CSS is a very easy to understand language. It is basically a series of selectors and properties, which define the style. This together is called a style rule. CSS libraries are a collection of style rules. So why CSS? CSS allows you to apply a style to your HTML. You select an area of your HTML document and apply an effect to it. Selectors allow you to affect different parts of your HTML. You can affect the type, class, or ID. CSS also has rules where you affect the child elements, the descendant, or any other combination. The rules can cascade, meaning the more rules there are, they can overlap in many cases. They also override each other, meaning the last rule the browser reads will take precedence over any other previous rule. If you have two style rules that affect the same element in the same way, the last rule will take precedence. Your styles can be inline, meaning you write them to your web page, or you can have them be external. This means there is a separate file that contains the styles, and you just have to have your web pages linked to that one file. You don't have to copy the same CSS into every page. Any changes you make to the CSS will then be applied to your whole website. The browser will cache it, and that makes for faster loading times. Now let's take a look at some CSS. Okay, so we're going to apply some CSS styles. Okay, first I'm going to show the content. Here we have the opening body tag. There's closing, and this is all content here. We gave it an ID, first div, and we have a paragraph, an unordered list, we have a table, some more div elements, and a div with a nested paragraph tag in it. So let's take a, and here is the rendered content over here. Very plain, very black and white. So now let's add our first style. So this is a type selector. What does that mean? So we're selecting a type of content, a type of tag. So we said whenever you see a paragraph, we're going to apply the border style double. And as you can see, wherever we had paragraphs, it applied a border to it. Okay, now we're going to apply another type selector to the type table. I'm going to uncomment this one. Here we would have type table, apply the color red, and have the border style groove. And as you can see here, we have our table has a border around it, which this should be groove. Let me see if I can magnify that. You can sort of see it there. And the text has become red. Like if I change this one to something else, let's use color app workspace. You can hardly see that one. Let's pick another color. Blue violet. And that's become blue violet. Now we'll go to our class selectors. So let's take a look at where do we have any classes defined. Here we have class epic. This div tag is using class epic and class bold. This one is using class rare and class bold. Now let's go see what that does. So for class epic, we want the text to be purple, and as you can see, the text did become purple. Now let's do class rare. We're going to skip bold for now. After we do class rare, it says whenever you see class rare, make the color blue, and so our font did become blue. Now what does class bold do? So we'll take what we want is to make the font weight bolder. Let me show you which options you have available. There's different number of values, but we have bold, bolder, inherent, initial, lighter. If I change it to lighter, you can see the text is a little bit lighter. And we'll do bolder, so this is a deep bold. Now let's look at an attribute selector. So what does that mean? So we're going to look for some attributes. So here we have our table is ID my table, and we give it an attribute data dash source equals wow. So let's go over here to here. So this one is going to look for any element that has an attribute data dash source. And here I typed wow z and give it a color dark or orchid. So if I do that, nothing happens to our table. Actually, you know what? Let me change the table's color back to red so you can see the bigger effect. So So this is red, but now when I change this to wow, it changed the text to dark orchid. Now, why is it not red anymore? Remember, I was telling you the last item of cascade will take precedence. So this one, although this is color red, this one came afterwards. Now if we move this up, this one takes precedence because this one is applying to the directly I made a mistake. So this attribute selector for data-source equals wow is going to change the text to dark orchid. Now there's also combinators. What does that mean? It means combination of elements. So we can do descendants of list item as a child of unordered list. That's what we're going to do here. So we have this unordered list here. So any descendant, any line that's a descendant of an unordered list, let's give it a border dotted. And as you can see, our unordered list now has a dotted border. Now let me copy that list. Whoops. I'm going to duplicate this list, but I'm going to change it into an ordered list. I'll move this out. So, see, now we have two of these. They're both unordered lists. That's why they have the dotted border. Now, let me change the second one to ordered list. And you can see it doesn't have this border, even though we said li. But what we really meant is a descendant of an ordered list. So the list item that is a descendant of an unordered list do this. So if we duplicate this one and change this one to ordered list, we get the same. Or we can do something different. And change the text to red for an ordered list. Now, what is the pseudo element? Pseudo element, here we're saying, okay, so we know we want a paragraph tag to have some effect, but we only want the first line to be blue and to be just a little bit bigger in font size. So when I activate this one, as you can see, this one had a paragraph tag and it's cascading, so it's doing border style double, and it's also doing this. So the first line of text that the browser renders is going to be a little bit bigger, 1.25 EM, as we can see, and we want it to be blue, and so that's what happens. There's other pseudo elements. It should be first letter, and as you can see, and then either here we can probably change this to 2.5 EM to give emphasis, like in those, once upon a time stories, how they have the first letter really big caps. So change this one back to first line, and that's how a pseudo element works. And now let me change this to a little bit more reasonable size. We can also have other things be pseudo elements. Okay, so now you see how this one has a hashtag? So this one says we're looking for the ID bulk text when we use the hashtag in the CSS. So do we have any IDs here? We do. ID equals bulk text in our paragraph here. And so our pseudo element is whenever you hover over bulk text, I would like the font to become bolder. So let's move the mouse over this element here, and we see everything became bold. And if I move the mouse away, unbolded, back to normal. We can even change the background color to, we want it to be burly wood. Let's see what that color looks like. So here we go, and look, the background color changed as well when we move the mouse over. Now let's take that away, back to normal. So that's another pseudo element. Okay. And here we go with a direct descendant. Now let's say we wanted some kind of effect to happen to the paragraph tag, but only by the direct descendant of some other element. So here we're going to go look for the ID first div, and only its direct descendant paragraph. So here we're going to look, so the hashtag means look for an ID. So ID first div, its first descendant paragraph, make it bold with no border style, and use a monospace font type font. So here, let's see how many paragraphs we have before I activate that. So we have a paragraph here, Final Fantasy, and we have a paragraph here, which is inside another div. So if this works, only the direct descendant of first div will apply the style, which should be Final Fantasy. So right now they're both outlined and activated. And here, as we can see, the style's cascaded. So first div is going to get font bold with no border, and change the font style, the font family, to this monospace type font. And here you can see like the other type of fonts available to you. This may or may not work in the browser. Yep. Cursive, sans serif type font, and a serif type font. Here people also type Arial, Verdana, let's see, Tahoma. As you can see, the fonts keep changing. Or you can do a list, Arial, Tahoma, Arial, sans serif. Change back to monospace. That's how that one works. Okay, now let's see. A pseudo class and cascading rule override. Okay, look at the li element, and we're going to go to the nth child. Okay, I'm going to pick the third element, and I say I want that color to be chocolate with a border style of none. So we have two of them here. Notice we didn't specify ordered list or unordered list. We just said any line that's the third child of either list. And so as we can see here, this one did become chocolate and it removed its border. This one didn't have a border, so there's no border, but it also turned to chocolate. If I change this to 2, the second one changes. I can also put 1, and it'll pick the first one. And look here, li. Or we could just do first child. Pick. Oh. Charter this color. If I comment that one out, the first one is this color. And so what's the difference between nth child and first child? First child is this convenient way to do nth child 1, which means the first element, we want it to be different. This one can have any number. If I did 4, we don't have a fourth element, so nothing did change. 3, that one changed. This one can do 4. Style. Actually, let's change the font weight. Font weight to bolder. And so the first element is applied this color, Chartreuse, and the font weight, we gave it bolder. And so that's the pseudo classes. Since there's these pseudo kind of exist, you create them, and then you're referencing them different way. Like here, we could even type in a formula, I think, 1 + 2. What happens? Yeah, second one. So here we go, direct descendants. Only this one got applied, not this one here. We're gonna go over bulk text. This pseudo element hover, so when the mouse hovers over, you get an effect. The combinators, so the descendants of unordered list, which are li, will have a dotted border, but an ordered list li will have color red. Will be color red. Here we look at the attribute selector. So if you see data source equals wow, make it a dark orchid color. Here we go. Now let's look at that one. Data source wow. And here we did classes. So we had a class epic, class bold, and class rare, all doing some different things. And of course you apply more than one class. As you can see, we applied class epic and class bold to this div tag, and this one had class rare and class bold. And these are type selectors, so paragraph type and table type. And this is also similar, but this is a combination of type selectors, so UL and LI. Let me do a different one. UL, LI, and hover. So I'm going to change the color when something hovers over it. I'm going to pick a dark green. Okay. So we're going to, an unordered list, we're going to hover over something, and look at that. We used a combinator and a pseudo element to change this line item to have a dark green background whenever the mouse hovers over it. So you can mix and match. And that should be a good introduction to how CSS works.